Welcome to EnvironMental Podcast.
Hello. Yes, this is a new episode of EnvironMental Podcast.
I think this is episode 3 of EnvironMental.
Yep.
Yeah.
Officially number 3.
Yeah.
And
On
yeah,
the
I think
podcast formerly known as Off Brand.
yeah. This one's going to be kind of an overview of what we've learned over the past week.
Kind of. And a new phrase I really like that I want to talk about.
Because last week we were joined with Julia from Atlas of Sustainable Colors.
Yeah, she was dope.
Super, super cool. So definitely give that episode a listen if you haven't. It's not on YouTube, unfortunately, but there is a link to our Anchor, and you can also check it out on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, all of those things.
It's also on our website. If you go to dandelionbranding.com and click the content, it has a little cute carrot.
Give it a listen.
Yeah, you can listen to it there. Yeah. Highly recommended. Julia's a badass.
Yeah, really, really cool and really enlightening because she definitely made some statements that I think certainly got me thinking.
Definitely been thinking a lot about color and the concepts around color in the past week, and as especially around my house and the color palettes and using it more sparingly and more sustainably. Yeah.
Just got a lot of color on our mind.
Oh yeah, and living brand directory.
Right.
Also, we're also choosing colors.
Yes.
Guys, we're really busy.
There is a lot, but yeah, I think that it was really interesting to hear from her that not only are there a number of just really major issues with traditional dyeing practices, but also that there really kind of isn't a great alternative.
Right.
And I think that this is something that we're going to come up against a lot with this podcast and talking with changemakers and sort of the limitations of what we can do. And so yeah, I thought that was really interesting, and that's definitely what's been on my mind this past week.
The limitations.
Yeah, and I think, it's how can we actually come up with innovative solutions when we're still working within an overall system that is based on that is unsustainable itself, right?
Right. The system is broken.
Yeah, so I think, or not necessarily broken. It's working as it is intended to, but how can we, as a globe, make changes that can actually save the planet from climate change?
Right.
Because so Julia mentioned something that really stuck out to me, and it was that even if everybody on Earth wanted to choose a more sustainable clothing option, for example, that actually wouldn't be sustainable because there's just too much. So what is, ultimately we have to look at how we consume.
Right. And change our minds around, our concepts around old versus new. I really liked that train of thinking. How can we that, especially in the Western cultures, she mentioned that we place a higher value on things that are new.
Yeah.
And rather than things that are old or that can be reused or continued to be used. And that's something that I've been thinking about a lot this week.
Yeah. It's
Um,
really interesting because that's something that happened, like, not that that isn't something that's just like ingrained in humans. Like, that is something that happened within like our parents' lifetime, like
Plastic.
like two generations
Yeah.
where hyper consumerism has run rampant.
Right.
So like,
I gotta think that it really comes with like the discovery or invention of like plastic
yeah,
and like the single use shit is like something that our grandparents were fucking stoked about because they didn't have to do dishes after feeding their family of 8 or
right.
whatever. Like that really, that idea of the disposable stuff
Hmm.
came with that mindset, with like
Mm.
literally came with plastic.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean, and that there is like the crux of like all of these issues, because we at that time no one knew that that was going to be problematic. They were
Right.
just like, this is an incredible solution to the problems that we're seeing,
Right.
currently. Or yeah, which was just like, yeah, having massive families, or you don't want to deal with cloth diapers for 8 kids.
Right. To be
Like,
honest, if I wasn't environmentally conscious, plastic dishes, paper plates and shit would be awesome right now in my
right,
life. Like
it's
I would choose that if I wasn't like that's not really safe. Like
yeah.
not maybe no, oh, I should probably say why. It's because I live in a house that I'm also renovating, and so we're living in essentially a room that is functioning as our bedroom, our living room, and our dining room, and then we also have like a very small kitchen, and there are always people over helping us with our house, um, working on the house. So we're always like feeding people or making coffee or like, offering food and drink basically to lots of people in our tiny space in our tiny kitchen. If I had less of a like focus on sustainability, I'd be like, please give me something I would definitely opt for paper cups, paper plates, maybe,
Right.
stuff I could throw away. It's just easier.
Totally. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it eliminates a ton of the housework, which, like, makes sense. Everything that we've created, we've been spoiled,
Yes.
like everything that is created out of convenience, or to try to make our lives more convenient or more affordable.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and this cheap and disposable kind of wave of products
Yeah.
is really sort of what we have to fight against. And that's not something that a lot of people want to do, because
Right.
they love the fact that everything is so
So
easy
easy.
and so cheap and so accessible all the time.
Mm-hmm.
So, I
Yeah.
mean,
It's hard to make a different choice, you
right,
know?
right. When you can just go to Walmart and get 1,000 styrofoam plates for a
Right.
dollar,
Right.
like,
And then you don't have to worry about doing the dishes 7 days a
mhm,
week, you know?
right.
And yeah, that's what it comes down to, right? Is it's not just like choosing the more sustainable option. It's also like changing the thinking of people towards like and towards understanding what sustainability means and what role they can play, and like how using a glass for water and leaving it on the sink, You don't have to wash that glass. You don't have to waste water the next time. You can drink out of it again. Like conceptually, those things are strange for some people, you know, and I think like changing minds is where we need to like move towards, and
Right.
that's very challenging.
It is, because we're asking people to make a decision that is going to be less convenient. Like where you're having to change your mindset into one where you're being more held accountable for the
Mm-hmm.
waste that you're producing. And that
Mm-hmm.
doesn't make people feel comfortable, you know?
No.
If somebody was, if even me, if I was sitting in a room with all of the trash that I've produced in the past week, I would be like, that's a lot. Like, and if I didn't have the, you know, incredible service of the trash people coming to pick it up, what would I do with it? You know, like we have
Mm-hmm.
all these systems in place to really kind of like remove us from any of the negative consequences of the way in which we produce and consume.
Yep.
And because we don't see that side of it, we're just like, well, I threw it in the trash and it's gone. It's fine.
Right.
Like,
Right.
but that's never been the case. But like, that's so many people's mindset. Yeah, it's like out of sight, out of mind. Like,
Mm-hmm.
I don't have to worry about it. Once I throw it away, it's somebody else's problem now.
Yeah.
And that
But
mindset
it's
is,
not though.
it's fucking not.
It's
Yeah.
not. Like it's
Never
somebody else.
was. But
It never was. And like it's somebody else's problem, as in now it's like 7 billion other people's problem also. You know,
mhm.
we're all dealing with a global climate crisis. And it's not just trash, you
No,
know.
no, 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 no,
That's
no. Yeah.
something that like is really tangible that we can say. But I just learned today that especially this time of year where it's cold as fuck in a lot of places, I live in the Netherlands, it's very cold outside. It's like doing that thing where it's like 1 degree and then it freezes overnight, and then sorry, it's Celsius, it's 33 degrees, and then it freezes overnight, and then it like gets weird and slushy. It's I fucking hate it. So it's like be cold, or just or just it like will rain all day at 33, 34 degrees. Damn it. Just be snow.
No.
Um anyway, it's cold and people turn their heat on,
Mhm.
and like the heating industry and the heat industry to keep our spaces warm make up like 40% of the carbon or something in the air. Don't quote me on that, but I retweeted it. I learned that on from Twitter today from a BBC article.
Hmm.
Um, that that's a huge portion of the carbon that we're putting into the air is the reheating of our house, or using AC for our house. And
Mhm.
and I think the article was about choosing a more sustainable option rather than like fossil fuels, or, like get a heat pump. They're quite expensive and they're a pretty big investment, but they cut down immensely on the carbon emissions and they cut down a lot on um, actual cost, like month over month in your house.
I don't know what a heat pump is.
A heat pump is like there are two different ways to get a heat pump. You can get an air one or you can get a ground one. I know this because we're for the house renovation, we're focused on this.
Mhm.
Um, it's one of our really big goals is to get off gas altogether, and the heat pump is a huge part of that. It pulls um, basically the one from the ground pulls water or pulls heat from the ground and replaces cold. It's I don't know, I'm not very good at explaining it, it's kind of like a backwards refrigerator. So it pulls
Okay.
temperature from the ground and it
It's
helps
a
to
way of
make
regulating temperature that doesn't, but it still requires electricity.
it does require electricity.
Yeah. But you're saying that the use of like gas heaters and stuff
Yeah.
is contributing.
Yeah, gas heaters have a huge impact on our climate.
Mm.
And there's not an easy way to get off that. Right? Like it takes a lot of money to invest in a heat pump and a lot of energy to a lot of electricity. And then it's like, but we also have dirty electricity creating. So we need to invest. Then it goes into like the renewable energy conversation and it just kind of keeps getting bigger and bigger. And then it's kind of like, what can I do about it? All I want to do is have a fucking heat pump that isn't connected to like that isn't connected to gas. But
Right. But then you're faced with, prices that are perhaps prohibitive and access to something like that. A lot of people are renting. They would never even be able to put something like that in.
Right. And then it's like, well, then, then what? Do you try to figure out how to like create a solar system in your house? That's also an option. Like that you get a solar panel, which, they're expensive, but they're not so expensive, and then try to use a space heater or something. Like what kind of option is there really for, renters is a really good example.
There isn't much, and that's why we're in the position that we're in and so many conversations about making sustainable choices often they grow exponentially, like because everything is so interconnected. Like if you are trying to provide somebody solutions for just like getting off of gas, okay, now that poses an entirely different set of issues.
Right.
Or it's like a whole new industry that you have to then sort of try to learn about. And it's again a lot of work put on the individual, right? Where like rather than anything actually happening from the top down, like in terms of people who control larger corporations, systems, things like that, a lot of the work and a lot of the the effort, I suppose, is put and it's on the individual to like, well, if you want to have a house with less carbon footprint, it's on you to have to figure out how to do that. But for a lot of people, it's just not even a potential option. It's like, and I think that really that interestingly ties into the post that you wanted to talk about. That was something along the same lines.
Yeah, it's from 4leaf, the number 4_leaf, LEAF. Hi.
On Instagram.
On Instagram. Yeah. And we met because we are both, she messaged us because we're both going to the Ecopreneur Summit, which is a really, really cool thing. If you Google Ecopreneur Summit, it'll come up. It's happening like right now. So I think it's, I listened to some of those today, Court. It was actually like super rad.
Yeah.
And I'm really excited for the next days. Anyways, so she hit us up and I Insta stalked her, and her feed's really cool, and she has one post in particular that says green wishing, which I think is a really cool term. And then She also defines it saying it's that feeling that you make like that making small choices makes it a big difference in the global sphere of things.
Mhm.
I feel a couple of ways about that actually, because I think I agree with her because we need to have massive, massive change. I also think that like those massive changes are on the level that need to happen are on the level above the consumer. And Julia said something really interesting last week, which is that we're all responsible.
Mhm.
Like, no matter how big your industry gets, no matter how big your company gets, there's you are responsible for the choices that you make and the choices that your brands make. So, no matter what level you're playing at, you can choose to make the more sustainable choice. But when it comes to greenwashing, it's like I hear it on that side, but I also hear like if 7 billion people refused plastic,
Mhm.
like that would be massive.
Yeah.
That would be massive. So I really love the term greenwashing because it makes me feel really inspired because we get to work with brands, so we get to work with that industry level. We get to talk with industry level change makers and figure out those solutions. So now we have this podcast. But I also think it's a little disempowering to a
Mhm.
consumer base that was not brought up learning about sustainability
Mhm.
and climate change.
Yeah.
I think we
Yeah.
didn't learn about climate change when I was in school until like high school, maybe,
Maybe.
if that,
Yeah.
if that. Maybe Bill Nye said it at some point
Yeah.
in a in a in a Bill Nye, and that was it.
Mhm.
You know,
I mean, I think to some extent, I think that that post was meant to be controversial. Like it was meant to
mm-hmm.
that term was meant to kind of get that reaction, which is like,
Right?
but I think it speaks to a really interesting thing that is super common, which is like a lot of folks who, you know, who are interested in sustainability also don't really want to make massive changes to their lifestyle.
Right. There's that.
So they, do small things like, recycle, shop secondhand, don't buy straws anymore or something like that. But like, and then that satiates the part of their brain that makes that they
I
want
did
to feel like they're
it.
making a difference. Right. And right before this podcast, we sort of like, it was like, it's similar to people around the like Black Lives Matter movement posting a black square on Instagram and thinking that racism was solved.
Right. Look at all these other people that were muted for a week.
Right. Yeah. Where are they now? Like, like
Right.
these things don't, it's not just like an end all, one thing and like, okay, I did my part. Like I took part in a beach cleanup in 2007. Like that isn't like cool. Like, thank you. Thank you.
Thank
That's
you.
good.
Yep.
But these are ongoing
Mhm.
massive things that we have to deal with. And so
Mhm.
I thought that was an interesting and good call out for people who
Yeah.
really, kind of were just performatively uh
Performatively sustainable.
performative sustainability. Yeah, it's a fucking thing. Like
Yeah.
absolutely. And yeah,
Yeah.
so it's
I just read an article. It was on Medium, and so I'm not really sure I can't remember who it was by. It is linked in our latest Brands That Bloom with My Glow. So, um,
coming out in a couple days, more December 3rd. So if you're listening around,
it's already live on the site.
oh, it's in the blog.
It's in the blog article.
Oh,
Yeah,
right
yeah.
on. Okay, well,
It's
send
linked.
over.
This is an article that's linked in the blog article on the website. Um, so every month we spotlight an entrepreneur that is doing some inspiring and sustainable things. And this month I talked with Steph from MyGlow, and I wrote about how inclusivity is sustainable because MyGlow is inclusive as hell. That is it is incredible. Anyway, there's an article that says, why is inclusivity the new sustainable?
Mm.
And I kind of was like doing some like light reading about what other people's takes were on why inclusivity is sustainable. We have our own. It's on the website. You can read it in the article. But actually, this article is about exactly that. It's about how inclusivity, the black square is a really good idea. It's like inclusivity is the new like cool thing to be.
Yeah.
It's like everybody's there.
Mm-hmm.
Like I'm into being inclusive. There's black people on my feed in my social media post, and that they are linked in that way. And greenwashing and now green wishing, that's pretty much what that article is about. They were comparing this sort of like performative inclusivity or performative sustainability to each other, and how that's like the new way to go, or the new way to have a competitive advantage for your brand. Lame.
It's interesting because, yeah, like on one hand, that is great. There are absolutely people that have historically been excluded from traditional business
Yeah, absolutely.
opportunities or just purchasing opportunities. Like, My Glow is specifically a beauty brand. The history of how African American women have been excluded from traditional beauty is ridiculous.
Basically not. Yeah.
Like, yeah, there, you could probably count the number of brands that have more than like 20 shade ranges for their foundation on like one hand. Like it's just not, it's shitty and it's weird, and it's something that even we've experienced. We've worked
Yeah.
together. And yeah, I mean, it's
Major
hard.
call out. Courtney and I called a meeting to have a conversation about that as an issue with the brand that we used to work with.
Yeah. So and so on one hand, it's the fact that brands are even thinking about the need to be inclusive is a good thing.
Yes.
But like,
Super good.
but yeah, but like, just posting people of color on social media is or hiring someone specifically like in some for just like a diversity
hire.
officer, like that's not actually a solution. You're just kind of like putting a band-aid on, rather than like actually taking a look at like the organization that you've created, or like the business that you've built, and how you could actually provide jobs to people in areas of low income. There are actual solutions that could be really helpful to communities of color, but it's a lot easier for brands to just like put some different images up on their site of people of different skin colors and just call themselves inclusive.
Right.
It's a double. I mean, both things are true.
Yeah.
Both, yeah.
And we're also not saying like don't do that, because you should. You should represent people of all ages, colors, sexes,
sizes.
sizes.
Yeah. I mean, Of course, but like do it on a deeper level. And maybe like you don't need to make it public, you know?
Right.
Like why does it need to happen?
Right.
Why do you need to say like, look at how inclusive we're being? Look
Right.
at us, like give me like okay, you got a gold star for the day of winning the planet. You
Right. You
best
did it.
best human award goes to you. Yeah, it's a self-serving, right? And people can see
Right.
through that shit, you know? Like consumers are getting smarter and like
Mhm.
it's got to be deeper than that. It's got to be true and real and something that you actually
Yeah.
care about. And like, so yeah, I mean, I think that I think a lot of brands are getting like canceled for stuff like that online. Rightfully so. You can't just like you have to like put your money where your mouth is. Like, you
Yeah.
know.
You can't like co-opt inclusivity and then be like, what? Yeah.
Right, right. Like
Right.
it is super similar to greenwashing. Yeah, it
Mhm.
is definitely where it's just
Yeah.
capitalizing on a particular trend because you know that like consumers are interested in that now.
Mhm. Yeah, that's what that article was about. And I hadn't actually thought about that before I read it. You know, we've talked about it, but I had never like compared those
Yeah.
two. I like put them together, but it makes sense. Anything that is progressive in that way, it is at risk of that sort of like washed, like, you know, the only word I can think of now is performative.
Yeah, I mean that is what it
Fancy
is
word.
essentially. Like yeah, and I mean it really takes some like deeper work to look at like okay, why have we made some of the choices that we've made? You know, why did we, the beauty industry example is just an easy one. Why did we only produce light colored makeup shades? It was just, you know, like why?
Right.
And like the answers that you'll hear are probably like monetary or
Yeah,
like,
it's
well, our
easier.
audience is only this. And it's like a hell of a lot of assumptions. Um, and that's, yeah,
Right.
it's
If your
so
answer is because your audience is only white ladies, like you're
there's your problem.
you have a problem. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I think, okay, yeah, that opens up a whole new area to improve, right?
Right.
Like,
And I
well,
think one of the points I made in that article, I'm kind of obsessed with that right now with this like thought process right now, which is that like niching down doesn't mean doesn't necessarily mean exclusion in the same way anymore. That um, the term exclusive, like, it's very difficult to explain. But when you create a niche for yourself, thinking about inclusivity as a standpoint and a competitive advantage within your specific niche is a way to expand your language, expand your voice, and like expand your product line over time, even. And it doesn't necessarily hurt you to include more or to be more diverse or more socially conscious about the human species, you
mhm.
know, or who you are including. Like niching doesn't necessarily mean just like ignoring everything else, you know?
Yeah, that I mean, still there is incredible diversity within the nichiest of niches.
Yeah.
Like, yeah.
We found the nichiest of niches earlier today, and I'm trying to remember what it was. Um, an astrological tongue and pulse. tongue
like practitioner, herbal practitioner.
herbal
Yeah.
practitioner.
Chinese medicine, astrology, tongue and pulse diagnosis, herbal
Right.
medicine, Western
Right.
herbal
You have to
medicine.
have like, and to take this class, you have to have like a kind of a foundation in all of those things. And we were like, this is, I've actually taken some of the classes from this practitioner. It's fucking awesome, but like, it's very niche, the nichiest niche. Like,
Yeah.
it
Yeah.
works. That's
Right.
also a way to be more inclusive, is just like add more niche stuff to your to
What
your
do you
list.
mean?
Well, it really is. Like in this case, it really is tongue diagnosis, pulse diagnosis, astrology, herbalism, Chinese medicine. It is like it is an interdisciplinary look at body systems and like and the planet with the astrology piece and how to like understand someone and understand someone's constitution, and in that, and this practitioner has built his entire spent like the last several decades learning how to intertwine all of these things and teaching other people how to intertwine these like several different healing modalities. And we're laughing at it being like the nicheest thing, but honestly, if you have like a rudimentary knowledge, you can find something of value in that course. So he niched down by adding more. If that makes sense.
I suppose. Yeah. And he's also just like sort of honed the craft so he knows how they all intersect. And I think if you're able to kind of communicate that, then it becomes less confusing that it's not just like two very random niches. But anywho, that was a yeah.
But a relevant one.
But yeah, I mean the point was that like right within any group of people, there is still, well, not any, I suppose, but I guess when you're thinking of your business, like from a business standpoint or from a brand building standpoint, like even your like hyper niche brand, the people who might be interested in that can still come from like all walks of life. And that's just something to consider. I think that like it's just the process of like kind of figuring out who your brand speaks to and the different personas of who may be an ideal customer. I think that process helps a lot.
Yeah.
But I also think it's easy for people to kind of oversimplify that. And
Yeah.
so it,
Anybody
yeah.
that wants to buy my product is not a
Yeah,
nice.
we've heard that before. I'm like, who,
So
you
many
know,
times.
who is your customer? You know, when we've tried to sort of ask these questions to people, yeah, say anyone who would buy my product. They're not wrong. They're not wrong, but like,
No,
yeah.
that is the Webster's dictionary definition of a customer.
Right. Right. So yeah, I think doing some deeper digging into sort of the communities of people who would be interested in your brand or your product. And even some that you think wouldn't be, I think like why is it that you think that particular group of people wouldn't be interested in your product? Like, is that an assumption that you're making?
Right.
Like, is that,
Where's the data?
so I think, yeah, I think that's an interesting part of the process, and that's on our mind right now. I mean, obviously we talk about brand building a lot, but if you go to our Facebook or Instagram, we are sort of currently talking about customer groups and personas. So it's on our mind.
And the reason for that is because we have a course starting. It's officially December 1st right now. So next month, our first, where we have a brand building course where we teach you how to build a brand basically from concept to like maintenance marketing, all the way through, including lead generation, website building, content marketing creation. That's like email, social media, blogging, podcast, like all of it.
Yep.
Uh, at literally everything. And it's a 6-month course, and we're taking applications now. So if you want to learn how to build a brand from us, we're really good at it, and we would love to teach you.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's a
I mean,
lot
it
of fun,
is,
actually.
yeah. So it'll be an online course. But we also will meet online once a week.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not something that you just kind of have to like sign up for and
Right.
do on your own. There will definitely be leading the way. So,
Yeah.
um,
Holding you accountable. There will be other people in your cohort. So, yeah.
I guess
Very,
link.
very.
I'll put a link to the sign up in the description of this video and this podcast if you're listening. So,
Yes. Awesome.
um, yeah. Anywho, we originally started chatting
We're,
about,
we've gone around. Where are
we
we?
have gone around, and thus is life. When talking about sustainability, there's a million tangents that like
Yeah.
everything is so interconnected. So,
Yeah. And these last ones slash first ones of the month are really about like gathering and kind of just like thought projects. If you listen to Off Brand, it's a little bit more like Off Brand, where we're just like kind of having a conversation, just kind of thinking about a topic.
yeah.
Yeah. That's this. Greenwishing, last week's Changemaker Chat with Julia. That was, I've been thinking about it all week. I keep telling Tom about it. And he's like, I know about your Changemaker Chat, Aubrey. I already know about it. I'm like, well, I'm telling you again.
That's really interesting.
It
Yeah.
was
I mean,
really cool.
yeah. Um, yeah. And I'm just excited to continue to like learn from folks in the industry. And I think that our goal is really just to kind of like normalize the idea of like learning about sustainability, and it's okay that you
Mm-hmm.
don't know everything, and like
Mm-hmm.
maybe it is a little green wishy. Well, we do think that incremental change can be make a big impact, and at
Yeah.
least it's fucking start. At least it's a
Yeah.
fucking
You
start.
don't recycle right now. Please fucking recycle.
Right. So it's like we know that the process of making these changes, like it's not just going to be something that, somebody in the middle of the country
Mm-hmm.
will be able to
Right.
change overnight. Like that's just not realistic.
Right.
And we wanted this to be really real. Like this is, when you're learning about this stuff, it can be really overwhelming. And
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we want to break it down. And I think this is our first month, so we're kind of like, maybe this works. But I think moving forward, we're going to choose a topic for each month, or like every 4 weeks, and kind of have a conversation around the same thing, so we can really go deep into a topic and learn a bunch about it, and maybe talk about like some preconceived notions. Like, I think next week we're going to start talking about recycling in particular, and we're reading a book about recycling. We're going to have a change maker chat about recycling, and then the last week we're going to like basically be like, what have we learned?
mhm.
Like a kids show.
Yeah, I mean, kind of, yeah. Like,
Yeah.
yeah, we're gonna like start out with what we kind of know now, what questions we have, what
Mm-hmm.
misconceptions we might have,
Right.
reading the book. So we'll like learn a bit from that process, talk to somebody, definitely learn a bunch from that process, and then we kind of gotta like break it all down. Like what,
Right.
you know,
So recycling what?
yeah, it's gonna be
I'm super stoked because I think I started like listening to the book, and one of the things that I think about a lot, because like for instance we talked about before, like my parents don't have recycling at their house. They live in Michigan. It's kind of the middle of right outside of Flint. They can't get that infrastructure, or it's set up and it's extremely expensive to have them come all the way out there and like get it. And that's one of the things that like this book immediately kind of started talking about, which is I'm literally like 10 minutes in, is like they're the systems are disconnected from each other, and I think that that's again something that we're going to find over and over and over again, is that this system exists over here and this one is over here, and the reason why it all falls on the consumer is because we have to figure out how these systems are supposed to be working together, and it's a challenge.
Right.
I'm so stoked.
Yeah.
I feel like we're going to save the world, even though I know that we're just going to get overwhelmed and frustrated.
That's part of the process, I think.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, I mean, we will continuously hear that, like, yeah, the systems are flawed. There's no one single organization or person who can be held accountable. Everybody is responsible.
Yep.
And I think that something actually also with the greenwashing post was that it like was pushing or urging folks to get involved with like local legislation.
Yeah.
And I think that is honestly gonna be like the only solution that we're gonna be able to provide for a while, until we actually have people who, you know, in political power that work on some of these, you know, pieces of legislation to actually make change. Because it can't be this disjointed, like, independent companies working on solutions for much longer. Like the changes that need to happen
really has to. Yeah, it really has to be, instead of like this state does this stuff and can recycle this and this part of this this county, it really should be something that is together and mandated countrywide. Hey, let's start the Green Party campaign for 2024 right now.
I don't know enough about what the Green Party actually identifies with to say yes to that statement. I don't know any. I'm
not 100% sure that the Green Party has all of that information for themselves.
Quite possibly. I mean, the Green New Deal is still an open option. We will really see what, particularly in the US, what the Biden administration is able to put together. I think that he's putting some really smart people in positions already in his administration, which is really exciting. But you know, ultimately, I think it's going to be up to more local people, you know, more smaller races, you know, Senate and House of Representatives, to also get on board with that sort of stuff, because it doesn't need to be political, honestly.
No, it really doesn't need to be.
That's the weirdest part about all of this.
Governmental.
It needs to be governmental, but that's like, regardless of political party, like the interest of humanity should be something that everybody cares about. If we care about all lives, if we care about pro-life,
if we're pro-life,
where you at? Where you at?
I mean, there's a lot of different ways you can take that, right? Like basically any way that isn't abortion related, like where you at?
Where you at? Right.
Yeah.
The
total other aspect of sustainability that we haven't really talked about, which is like social and economic sustainability, and like
I'm
So
really
like how
excited
we
to talk about
treat
that.
groups of people, and how
Yeah.
walls don't work, and they're really bad for your economy and really bad for your country. I'm just gonna say it. I think we all agree. Probably everybody that listens to this podcast would agree. If you don't agree, start a flame war.
Let us know. Yeah. I
Yeah.
mean, yeah,
I'll flame war with you on YouTube comments about whether walls are important and successful for countries.
literal walls.
Literal walls. Also
Yeah.
figurative walls, though.
Hmm. Yeah, I mean, I think I am really excited to jump into more topics about uh, the societal aspects of sustainability.
Yeah.
Um, that's definitely something I'm really feel closely connected to. That's a personal interest of mine.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Personal
yeah,
interest.
I enjoy talking and learning about social justice. Yeah.
Yeah, same.
So that
I
is
think
why
that
we're
we could
here.
have several months of social justice, environmental stuff. I think we're going to need it.
Yeah, yeah. So that'll be in the future. Yeah, we're gonna kind of start with like, the basics. I think, or
Yeah.
what people think of as the basics of
Yeah. And
sustainability,
yeah.
and
And
even
then
what,
kind of
yeah,
get more mature
yeah,
as we grow. We don't want to come out the bat and be like equality, because that's just so like emotional and conceptual, and like the solution is time and like mind change. But I think being able to just be like, here's a solution, recycle, talk to your local government about what's available, like that maybe is a good place to go.
yeah. If our goal is for this to be like real and actionable, like those are the things that people actually have control over,
Mm-hmm.
right now.
Right.
And yeah, the conversations can get bigger over time as people get more and more on board. Um, and and none are more or less important than the others. Like it's
Right.
like, um,
Right. It's interconnected.
mhm. So
Yeah. There's a
I'm
Twitter
excited.
account
Mm.
that's at Eco Warriors.
Mm.
Um, maybe it's without an S. I don't know. Our Twitter is at underscore the living brand. And we tag each other all the time. So you can find it there. But Eco Warriors made a post the other day that I also kind of wanted to talk about on this podcast. It was a picture of a turtle. And then it was like something along the lines, I'm paraphrasing, of typical climate change activists don't like my feed because I talk about the political and the social and the climate. I don't stick to
Mhm.
one topic.
Yeah.
And I responded, retweeted it and responded saying that like her feed is fucking awesome. First off, that their feed is awesome. But also that there are a lot of activists out there that choose one or two topics and then they go hard on that topic,
Right.
and they go deep, and they like make petitions and go hard, and like that's their life, is the one aspect of sustainability, and we need those people. Like they they have to exist,
Great
or else
advocates. Yeah.
they're right. Those are the like pillar peace advocates that we need. But then we also need those advocates like eco warriors that understand the interconnectedness. And I think we fall more into that category, the understanding the interconnectedness of all of these bits of sustainability,
Yeah.
and alienating like, oh, you only care about koalas, or
Yeah.
you only care about wildfires, or the
Right.
coral reef or whatever. Like you can doesn't solve the problem. It
Right.
doesn't help. Infighting doesn't help. Don't judge each other's passion, you know?
Pretty
Like
much. Yeah, that's really interesting that somebody who would feel so passionately about one particular area of like environmental, I guess, like issue, one particular issue would be against someone who's talking about how that is interconnected with like larger societal things, because everything is, right? Like there's no, like we're not just like going out there killing the coral reef because it's like fucking fun. Like no, it's being killed because there's like shit that's getting into the ocean. Like it's like no one's just like murdering the coral reef. Like there are larger issues that cause these things, and maybe that's just because both of us have sort of an interdisciplinary mind.
Probably.
Like we both were educated that way. So yeah, perhaps that's why we kind of both fall in that category, I suppose. But that seems just kind of, it's a little crazy to me.
But it goes both ways. I mean, people are very us versus them. In general. And I think like if you're not on the koala team, fuck you.
Yeah.
Is how people feel. And sorry, I'm calling out koala people because I also follow a bunch of koala people. You're lovely. Koalas are super cute.
Save them.
Save the koalas. All the other, and the minks.
Pandas, dude. Pangolins.
Yeah, those poor minks, man, they're killing minks, and they killed them all in the Netherlands, and now they're doing it in Oregon.
I heard that.
Fucking bummer.
They were sick or something? Or what?
They get corona that is passable to humans.
Okay.
Yep. So the solution is just eradicate the species. That seems like a good fucking plan.
At the present moment, they're kind of.
I don't know.
Are they going extinct? Are they endangered? I don't know.
I don't know. We're making them endangered very actively. Like that's what happens when you kill whole habitats and whole like ecosystems of animals.
Yeah.
It's just
an interesting repercussion we'll have to deal with in the future.
Yeah, really sad. Yeah, but I think I was saying like it goes both ways. Like you were just saying, why wouldn't you think that your like the coral reef is interconnected? Why wouldn't you connect that? And it's like they probably do, but their goal is like they're laser focused.
Yeah.
We need those people. We need those experts. And I think like we're so good at us versus them mentality in just like as a human species, because that's how we've survived this long on this planet, that we're hurting ourselves. And the herbal and sustainable industries, like there's an ego there that is like, I'm more sustainable than you, I'm more herbalist than you. I see it.
Than you.
Yeah, more local. I'm more whatever. That doesn't help.
Yeah.
That's something that
it's not a competition.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Sustainability can't be a competition.
Yeah.
It's a crisis that we have to solve together as a species, and just being like, well, I'm more like earth based than you or whatever, I care more, doesn't help. Please just be nice and like be stoked for people and the things that they love and care about.
Pretty much.
And recycle.
It's as simple as it is.
I want everyone to recycle if you can. And if you can't, write your government.
Yeah, right. Pretty much. Well, yeah. Well, let's see. What are we talking about next week on this here podcast, huh?
Yeah, we're gonna shoot the shit about
recycling. Also, yeah, also recycling, or more specifically recycling. Yeah, we're gonna be.
Next week we start talking about recycling actually.
Mhm.
We were reading a book about it.
Yeah, I'm really interested in looking at like maps of where stuff is available and,
Mhm.
yeah, those larger
Yeah.
areas that,
Yeah. We're going to have a Changemaker chat. We found somebody, but we're not going to renounce our name because we don't know yet.
mhm.
And we're going to talk about how you can be more like recycle better, choose more recyclable options in business this month.
Mhm.
Or so
That'd be
says
cool.
our calendar that we made.
If that ain't the truth, I don't know what is. So, um,
I know we're like the calendar. It says it. It's on there. It's what's happening.
yeah, so stay tuned for those. I think that this is, I think that this is the end of this episode though. So thank you guys for watching and listening. If this was something you're interested in, we would love it if you would subscribe, give us a thumbs up. We would truly appreciate it. And we'll be back next week.
See you next week.
All right, bye.